but I don't personally know anyone that's done Boston as many times as you, and especially 13 in a row.
Well,
That's
I will say one correction. It's 12. It was from 2013. It's been my streak. So this will be number 12. And then,
this will be number 12.
and
Okay.
then I had 2001, 2, and 3. And then the military took me out west, way out west. So I had a little hiatus for a little bit, 10 years.
Jeff is Navy, correct?
Retired, yep.
By the way, which is your favorite, Chicago or Boston?
Boston, 100%.
Boston.
Yeah.
Boston, okay.
Boston brings something special to the running community that I think that it's hard to compare.
The atmosphere is unmatched. I've never run in an atmosphere even remotely close to Boston in any way, shape, or form. What happens when three runners
from different parts of the country
with different running stories
all get together?
Pure
RunTok
madness.
So listen in as we talk about all things running related.
And some things that maybe aren't running related.
As it's bound to be a good time. This is
RunTok Live.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of RunTok Live. I think we stopped counting episodes a long time ago. I'm pretty sure we're at like 50 or something. We're getting up there.
We're definitely not to that target 100 or 1,817 or whatever you threw out there in like episode 1.
Heck yeah. Hopefully all of our listeners are enjoying some halfway decent weather. Chase, I think you said you got some hurricanes coming through right now.
Not quite hurricanes. That's
tornadoes,
more your neck of the woods. We got tornado.
I'm in Florida.
We got tornado warnings going on. But we're just kind of getting ready for the eclipse up in these parts. Carolyn, you got the eclipse coming up too, right?
Yeah, it's coming right through Dallas, and in our school system, grades 3 through seniors are getting eclipse glasses, and they're running outside for like 5 minutes to look at the eclipse, and then running back inside to finish school.
Ours aren't even having school that day. They moved their holidays around so they don't have to go to school that day. What's the amount of time, like the totality that you guys are having? Like how much?
I think like maybe 3.5, 4 minutes.
We got 4.5 minutes up here, so they're handing out eclipse glasses at my work, so we'll see how this goes.
Chase was just saying he's doing a specialized one-time only 5K eclipse run that they're doing.
Yeah, but it's not actually like during the eclipse. It's
Saturday.
The whole weekend they're doing a whole eclipse festival all weekend long. So like Saturday night's going to be like a glow run, eclipse run type thing. So it'll still be cool. Like I said, it'll be a one-time thing. So I had to kind of jump into it.
Well, speaking of once in a lifetime things, we got Boston Marathon is vastly approaching. I mean, it is just around the corner. And today we got a special guest who is quite literally a Boston Marathon vet. He's done it. This will be his 16th Boston Marathon, 13th in a row, which is just insane. And he's done all the other majors as well. He runs for First Place Sports, currently sporting the Boston Marathon jacket. We got Jeff Tomaszewski. Jeff, how's it going?
Wonderful. Thanks. This is great to have an opportunity to speak and be part of your this information you're giving out to everyone. So this is really cool. Thank you.
I don't know anyone that's done Boston as many. I'm sure there's people that have done Boston as many times as you, but I don't personally know anyone that's done Boston as many times as you, and especially 13 in a row.
Well, I will say one correction. It's 12. It was from 2013. It's been my streak. So this will be number 12. And then
this will be number 12. Okay.
And then I had 2001, 2, and 3. And then the military took me out west, way out west. So I had a little hiatus for a little bit, 10 years.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, Jeff is for the listener out there and for the viewers, Jeff is Navy, correct?
Retired, yep.
Yeah, retired Navy. And he's done, like I said, he's done Boston, he's done Chicago. By the way, which is your favorite, Chicago or Boston?
Boston, 100%.
Boston.
Yeah.
Boston, okay.
Chicago's a funny course. I think it's a lot harder than people think that it's supposed to be fast. I always I've had good races there, but
Nice.
Boston brings something special to the running community that I think that it's hard to compare.
I would agree. The atmosphere is unmatched. I've never run in an atmosphere even remotely close to Boston in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome. And for context, guys, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jeff. During COVID, when they had to kind of shift the dates of Boston, it was that weekend where they did Boston and Chicago, right? Or that week.
Chicago
that they
first, Chicago on Sunday, Boston Monday.
And he did both. He did
Yeah, that
Chicago,
was an
flew out to
interesting experience.
Boston, did Boston to keep his streak going.
2020,
That's awesome.
2021.
One, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah, because I ran in 2022, so that was the first year that it was back when it was on schedule. So,
Yes. Yeah, that was an interesting time.
What were
and
your
what year's that
times?
jacket from? Sorry,
2000.
Jake.
This is 2013.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so we got the. Hold on. Oh, you got the patches from.
Oh, yes, that is epic.
Patches, and that's like my only thing I go to the expo for is the patch, so I can add it. If I don't
That's
get it,
awesome.
that's going to be an issue.
Oh, okay.
We
For
can
the
talk about that
listeners,
later about how to. So I've effectively navigated the expo very very.
You know exactly where the
know
patch
exactly
is going to
what
be.
But Jake, you had a question.
Well, no, I was wondering for that particular weekend of the Chicago and the Boston, do you happen to remember what your times were?
Yes, I do. If I'm not mistaken, I actually I have them. I ran 242 or 241 in Chicago that year, and then I ran 250. I think maybe 252 in Boston. It's somewhere there. There's something that I'm really not good at. And we could talk about this more because I think it's really important, right? That for people to put things into perspective. I ran 243 and 257, and I think what's really important about that is I don't get caught up on numbers. I get caught up on the enjoyment of running. And we can go down this discussion path in a little bit, but I think for any runner, like we're out there for many reasons, and for those that get so caught up in the numbers and trying to hit PRs all the time, I think in my opinion, I feel like they lose out on a lot of what running is all about, and the connections we form, and the relationships we build, and the experiences that we have over the years. And I really do. I think that's, to me, is more important than what I run. Like, it is what it is. Like, at the end of the day, do I start and do I finish? Yes. Like, that's the goal. And I know that my friends and my family and everyone that supports me and puts up with some of my shenanigans when it comes to getting ready for races, that's what they want to see. And it's just something I really try to live by.
I love it. And I think we're all kind of in the same boat, same belief. We built this podcast and we advertise it as, 3 different runners from 3 different backgrounds and 3 different stories. And it's very true. We're from literally 3 different age groups, 3 different geographical areas. And, we built it around that context of, we all have something different to bring to the podcast, different reasons for running. So, but yeah,
That
that's
being
awesome.
said, I think me and Jake really like to race, so I think we're a
We
little
love to
bit.
race.
We're a
We
little
love to
bit.
race.
We're bit numbers people. Come on.
Chase,
Well, we're numbers.
I don't know much about you, Chase, but if you're saying that, then you're probably up there with, because I know enough about Jake that he does like the numbers.
I put it into perspective though. Like, I acknowledge I'm never gonna race with the Sims or the high level 25-year-olds anymore. But for a Masters runner, I can still be competitive.
Yep.
For a Masters runner, for the listener, and Jeff is going to be too humble to say it, Jeff is one of the best. He's up there. In fact, I think there was one Chicago, your age group, 45 to 49. I think you placed 4th or 5th in your age group overall in the Chicago Marathon.
Yeah, 5th, 2021, I think.
Yeah.
19, I think it was. Yeah.
And that's when he had a 239 at that
Yeah, it was somewhere right
particular
around
race.
there. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
I had a really good
See,
race that
I
year.
know I'm a numbers guy. I know his numbers more.
You know better than
more.
I do. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, somewhere.
Well, no, it's like you said too. Like it's about having fun and being proud of what you're out there doing, enjoying the sport. You know, like I can run a 3 hour marathon and have fun. I can run a 3.5 hour marathon and have fun. I mean, it's all about going out there and laying your body on the line. That's what we all have in common as marathon runners, is really going out there and putting everything out there on the course and coming away with something
Yep.
proud.
Yes, I
Well,
think Chase, you bring up a good point about, again, it goes back to that whole time thing. It's not about the time, right? And I think that's kind of like leaning into, how we prepare and the, especially at this time right now, we're 2 weeks out yesterday from game day, really, from the start of the Boston Marathon. It's 128th running of the Boston Marathon this year. So, I really believe that this is really the time for anybody, for any participant to really start thinking, about everything they've done, how they're going to prepare themselves, what they're going to do to get into, how they're going to travel to Boston, and then how they're going to navigate the few days before to really take all the training and the time and the effort and focus that they've had over the last few months during their training blocks, and get the best out of it, whatever that means. It's getting the best out of it. And I think an important piece of that is really reminding yourself, what do I want to feel like when I finish? It's a question that you should all ask yourself, and you should have an answer for. Like, you could say exhausted, and I just want to get across this fat, and I want to go for time, and I'm going to take the possibility and the risk. I want to finish strong, which means I might be a little bit more conservative at the beginning. I just want to be happy. I want to shake a lot of hands and give a lot of high fives, because there's so much energy on that course that there's not a moment in time when you're not surrounded by so many great people and so many great fans encouraging you every step of the way. So, but I think that's a good lead into, like, starting off your travel time getting into Boston. Would you say?
yeah, let's talk about that too. I mean, obviously you've done it. You never lived in Boston. You've always commuted there and traveled there. What, especially for the first time Boston Marathon runner, the ones that aren't familiar with the city, aren't familiar with the race. What are some tips that you can provide, not on race day, but the couple days before when they arrive to Boston?
So, speaking specifically about the first timers, they're probably going to come in a little bit earlier than someone like myself. Meaning Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday time frame is more than likely a time that they're going to get there. And also depending on where they're flying from, whether they're coming from outside the United States, they're coming from the West Coast, or coming up from the East Coast somewhere, or coming down from the East Coast. But, I think the biggest thing you have to think about is first off, the airport's busy no matter what day you go in, but there's Boston, Massachusetts Transportation Authority is probably one of the best to get around the city, and super easy. There's signs throughout the airport, depending on what terminal you come into, that tells you exactly where to go. The buses line up outside. It is a bus from the terminal to the train station, and that's where the metro will get you into downtown Boston. So don't be surprised if you arrive and you're like, where's the metro? It's not a metro when you first get there. It's a bus. It's a very simple bus ride through the terminals on their required stops, and they get you to the metro area where it's a drop off point. And from there, I believe that they still have the and I suggest for everybody, it's like there's a 5-day, 7-day, or a weekend pass. It's very it's not that much money. It's a few dollars. You just pay the fee, you get the card, and you'll have it to kind of get around anywhere within the downtown area. as far as getting to the expo and stuff like that. So look for the bus, look for the signs. It's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to see, no matter what day you get in, you're going to see other Boston Marathoners, participants coming in. So you could just follow the herd and it'll get you where you need to be. Obviously, you have other options, whether that's Uber or some other means of transportation. But the most effective and efficient way is just to jump on the bus, get to the metro, get to downtown, and figure out from there where your hotel is.
I have
Right.
a question. So, I mean, you've been to Boston multiple times. Have you ever toured the city before the race? Have you ever, messed around for a couple days before getting, mentally ready to race?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think this is I tell this to a lot of, either friends or fellow athletes that are going for the first time. You should do that. And I think, Carolyn, to your point, is like, you need to take in everything, and you can't, I think going as a first time marathon qualifier for Boston, you really should take in number one, what you've already accomplished. The accomplishment is done. You qualified, you made your time. Now you're going to go run this, very historic course that has been run for, the 128th running of it. And there's so much history and there's so much to see in Boston as a whole. So I think that to answer your question, yes, I did that. I did it in 2001. I did it in 2002. I did it in 2003. There's times I did it a few times, going back, 13 and 14 timeframe. But there came a point where now I have I just have a routine. I don't need to sightsee. I fly in on certain days. I kind of have this just very, really boring kind of preparation that works for me. I minimize time on legs. I really just try to lay around. Mostly, more times than not, I go get food and come back to my hotel to eat instead of going out. Just because I just know how those courses this course can take a toll on you. But being a first time qualifier and a first time running, don't worry about that. Don't take in what it is, because this is the time that you're going to remember. So I think that's probably the most important thing for someone to really understand is they've already accomplished a goal. Now it's about experience and the things you're going to remember. After that, it's game on. If you continue to go back and you want to go back after a few years, or you want to continue to go back every year or try to, that's where you start maybe playing with those, more boring approaches to preparation.
Yeah, I would
What's
definitely.
one? Oh, go ahead, Chase.
I'll probably chime in with my one Boston experience here and there, but what I did, you brought up some good stuff, Jeff. First off, as far as getting into Boston, I didn't get in there early enough. I wish I would have got there, a couple days early. I think I flew in on Saturday. But our plan was we stayed after the race, so I didn't leave Boston until that following Friday. We hung out and explored the city after the race, and that was a lot of fun. But if I were to do it again, I would definitely, especially as a first timer, I would go early rather than stay late.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep. In terms of preparation and packing preparation, and I'll reference this by saying I've only done Boston once, and I did it, quote unquote, the year of the storm, 2018, right?
Love that
And
year.
I was not prepped for that in any way, shape, or form.
Nobody was.
And, what are your suggestions for Boston as a city, prepping and packing for that? Because I feel like it can switch on a dime as far as the weather there.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Jake. 2018, I think, changed everything. The backstory from myself, in my experience, it was the same thing but I was coming from Seattle, which anybody would think, well, if you're coming from Seattle, you're prepared for pretty nasty weather. Why not bring your rain gear and your things? But I tracked that weather for 5 days. I usually start looking at weather, and to me, and I think to a lot of other athletes at the time, it didn't look so bad. And
Yep.
it really wasn't until that evening, the night before, where things just really shifted, and we were expecting, or I should say 24 hours before, because we at least had an opportunity to go to stores. But every store you went to was sold out of any type of protective gear that you could possibly imagine, to the point where we were wearing the bonnets, the bonnets that you get from the
I was wearing a shower
hotels.
cap.
Yeah,
I
the
was wearing
shower
the
cap.
shower cap. Yeah.
That's what we resorted to. We had nothing. But preparation. I think that you know, Boston is the weather-wise can change at any moment. So in my opinion, I think it's wise you have yourself, you know, I have little packing cubes. So I have my, you know, rainy weather, rainy, cold weather, warm weather outfits already lined up. So in extra, you know, I'm packing extra to ensure that I don't have to go out and purchase something or I have to go look for something. And I want to be able to, no matter what, that morning, wake up and if something changes, I want to be able to adapt without thinking. So to me, I do that now by lining it out. Whether you Ziploc bags is one good way of doing it, or you got packing cubes, you can put stuff in. But having that laid out and thinking to yourself, okay, like if I'm going to run in the rain, I love this rain jacket. It's not too heavy. It's not going to bother me. It might have extra pockets in it. Do I want to take a beanie? Do I need gloves? Or do I want a singlet and just regular short shorts in case it's warm? Do I have a, you know, do I have a hat, my sunglasses? And probably one of the best measures to ensure that you do not forget something, because we are busy and we have careers and all these other things that go on in our life. Right, start writing it down on a piece of paper and then just give yourself a checklist. Like, okay, this is what I need. This is what I need to have down. Once that's packed, it goes into in my opinion, I put it right off into the bag, and that's where it's going to stay until race day. And then you know it's there.
Nice.
So be prepared for anything is my philosophy, but that's for any race now that I attend because of 2018, which you can attest to. So
that's still to this day is the worst weather I've ever ran in. And I ran in Syracuse and, you know, blizzards, and that was horrible.
Yeah, that
was also happened to be my slowest marathon time I've ever ran. So.
That was my slowest Boston. It's probably
Carolyn, are you taking notes? Are you taking notes for your, you know, upcoming qualifying Boston time?
Yeah, I'm already packing.
There we go.
You know, I've got my checklist.
I like the positive attitude.
Well, you know what? This is the one time I am actually training correctly. I'm working on speed right now, and then we'll slowly work into Chicago time. But I'm glad you said that, because I've heard people forgetting running shoes. I've heard people forgetting, I don't know, so many various things. And it's like, I get how you could get caught up in the excitement of Boston, but this is still a trip. And it's probably, for some people, one of the most important races of their life, for, you know, so.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that it really is. We were talking about your jacket, Jeff. Style wise, do you have a favorite jacket in the number of Bostons you've done? Do you have a jacket that stands out as your favorite?
Yeah,
Was it that one?
This one. Well, and there's a lot of significance behind this. So as we all know, 2013 was just a year of a lot of loss, right? And really changed. Probably it's changed mindsets, it's changed feelings, it's significantly impacted Boston as a whole, and how probably now we're, you know, the race productions are going on and everything that we're paying attention to. That's really why, and to be honest, it's my only Boston jacket. Well, yeah, this is my only. I had a 2001, my first one, and
okay,
I don't even wear it. To be honest, I think I took off because it was the old school, like heavier jacket, and had this like really cool stitching of the unicorn with the year. And I think I actually ripped that off so I can eventually put it on a blanket or something, because this meant so much to me. And then that's where I started adding the patches every year. So I'm personally not one that buys a jacket every year. I just buy a patch, and I just add to it. So I'm just going to continue to try to fill it up.
That's kind of neat. It's like the old Letterman jackets from high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would not do that with my jacket. Like I said, I ran in 2022, and I don't know if you remember those or not, but they were the god awful purple
and
color.
Orange?
Yeah.
Is that the purple and orange and gray or gray?
Yeah, something like that. I was so disappointed.
It's interesting when you hear other people's comments too, because it'll come out and then, social media gets wind of it, and then all of a sudden people are making their comments.
Oh yeah, everybody loves him or hates him.
I think
Well, I'm really hoping 2025 it's a yellow jacket of some kind. So that's what I want. So
we'll see.
I
Better than
like
purple.
because 2018 was the bright orange ones, and I actually like those ones.
Yeah.
But I like those bright standout colors. And I still have my jacket, but I was also about 40 pounds heavier then, so it was a large jacket. Man, reminiscing.
What else?
Well, yeah. And if I ask too many questions, guys, slow me down. Let me know. Interrupt me. All right.
So we got everybody from the airport getting down to downtown.
And that's what. And I know it might be too late. It's not might. It is too late. But for future reference, because there's really two spots to stay at, right? You either stay at the start or you stay at the finish. In your opinion, I mean, you could stay in the middle or whatever,
Yeah.
but I think for logistics, those are the two areas that most people tend to stay. Do you have a preference? Do you have a go-to location that you stay at now every year?
I do. I believe staying right at the finish is probably the most has the least amount of impact on you overall for the race, and I think it gives you access to everything, and you're not, because really leading up to the race is the days that you're going to the expo. You're kind of you might want to. Some people go out and they do the 5K there on Saturday, and they're really trying to take it in. So to stay around the festivities that are going on, I think is important. So I would, to answer that question, I would say stay downtown, right? Stay within Boston. Now, I've stayed in multiple locations. I've stayed in the North End, where most of the restaurants are. I've also stayed over by MIT, which is a really great little pocket, an area where you kind of get away from the action downtown, where Boylston, it's on the other side of the Charles River. And there's, obviously with having MIT and everything over there, there's a lot of places that you can go get coffee, you can get food during the day, that takes you away from everything else that's going on downtown. So, but now over the last few years, I'm really I've been staying at a location really like right at the finish. And I utilize marathon tours. I think they're wonderful. I think it's a great resource that we have for them to kind of provide some pretty good significant deals for blocked rooms that you can go on. They do go fast, but if you get on when they release them, everybody that I know that utilizes the that website have been fairly very what word am I looking for? They've been I can't think. They've been very happy. It's better, lack of a better word. Very happy with where they stayed and what they've gotten for the pricing, because Boston can get expensive.
Oh yeah.
So they're very so it is a good resource. And I just think that it minimizes a lot of things that you need to worry about as far as getting around different areas. But again, I'll go back to what I said about their transportation. Their transportation is really good. So if you are not just right off Boylston and right by the finish line, and you're maybe over by MIT or by Harvard Square somewhere, very simple, quick little jump on a metro, and you're right where you need to be in a matter of minutes. So,
and that goes back to having that card, that travel
Yep.
card that you talked about. It is worth it. My wife got one when we were there, and I was very happy she did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I probably could have benefited from that. I think we Ubered everywhere that week.
well, that's expensive. Yeah,
We were within
definitely
walking
now.
distance of most stuff, but again, that's a testament to Boston, and we were never very far away from the gardens, so it was a good time.
Yep.
But you mentioned, Jeff, the 5K on Saturday. Talk to us a little bit about like the weekend festivities leading up, like not just the expo, but like the pop-up shops. I know that was one of the things that I loved the most about Saturday and Sunday, was visiting all the different pop-up shops.
Yeah. So this is where, I really have to say that I think we should divide the runners right now and the listeners that are going to listen to this topic about, you have your first timers and kind of like what Carolyn brought up, and then you have everyone else, right? So people that have been back a few times, they understand the dynamics of the city. I do believe there's a defining separation there, right? Because there is so much going on. So first, I think we should talk about the first timers. Again, I'm going to go back to enjoy your time. And, you're looking at, the expo, every pretty much major shoe company will have some form of a pop-up, whether it's through a storefront or it's going to be inside the expo, and it'll be pretty large, right? So you're going to be, and then you're dealing with the amount of people that are in that in those locations. So I think that, again, I think it's important. So the app's really nice. The Boston Marathon app this year, they pretty much lay everything out for you. And when you go on there, there's a bunch of other little links that you can go to, and it pretty much tells you where everything is. So I do think it's wise, especially for a first timer, to go on and look at okay, where is there a difference between the expo and with what they call the common area? So there's an outside tent that they usually put together right where the finish is, and they do a lot of stuff down there that that offers different types of manufacturers or shoe companies and pop-up tents in that area. And then a few of the storefronts right there on Boylston they all have their own type of shirts. They all have their own little twist on the memorabilia, from paintings to jewelry to to shoes or shirts or activewear. And then if you go back one street, which is the next street down here, that's where all the it's where Tracksmith and most of the restaurants and stuff
Is
are.
it Newberry or something
Newberry.
like that?
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Newberry. On Newberry. And again, that's a really, in itself, that street is filled with pretty much high-end merchandise, right? And but they're also promoting the Boston Marathon. So they're all going to have their own little things. They're going to have sales going on. They're going to have different types of live music playing. So there's so much. And if you just go into it not knowing, I think you get overwhelmed. And that's where you look back after your race and you go, oh my gosh, when I started the race, I was really tired. Well, it's probably because you've been on your feet and you weren't paying attention to the time and things like that. We can get into that later. But it happens and you don't even realize it because you're just so in the moment. So I would recommend that for first timers to look at the app, look at what they have, and pick out a few things that they really want to see. So, and then on the other hand, we have the people that have gone back multiple times or been back a second or third time or more, very familiar with the layout. They understand. And I think just out of, understanding and changing, training processes and things that an individual would want to do to prepare for the race will start to pull back some of the obligations they feel they should go see, right? And you also, some of the bigger vendors, whether that's Asics, Nike, there's a big Nike store there, Tracksmith, which is huge. You have to remember that there's going to be peak times, just as there's going to be peak times at the expo. Getting there early allows you to stay away from a lot of that, and that's for anyone, right? So getting in, obviously, probably the biggest peak time for the expo is going to be Saturday and Sunday, and in the middle of the day to the evening, and then Sunday really during the afternoon is morning and afternoon. You get towards the later hours of Sunday, not too many people when they're closing up. Majority of people have got their stuff by then. But I think that's important to distinguish, when you're thinking about taking care of yourself and not being on your feet all day long, going back to what I was saying, before you know it, you're standing all morning, all afternoon, and then you're finally back at the hotel in the evening, and you're kind of exhausted. So I think those are some key things that you can do to try to really minimize, and keep the energy that you have in your legs.
Yeah, for
I think
sure.
yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's an important thing to distinguish too is, you know, the walking around and the touristy stuff and how that does still take a toll on your body. And I was just telling, I don't know if you remember Robert Wood here, Jeff, but I was talking to him, and me and him were working a track meet here, in Orange Park, and we were there for 7 hours. We didn't do anything. We're just standing. And the next morning, I was more sore than I had been from the long run that I had done earlier that week. Like, you don't realize how just being on your feet takes a lot out of you and a lot out of your body.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about getting there a few days early. I know after I did Boston, I did a little TikTok video series about like 5 things I would do differently if I did Boston again. And that was one of the things. It was like getting there a few days earlier so I could experience a lot of those things and not be on my feet all day Sunday like I was my first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to really wrap that up when it comes to that, is that, prioritize yourself, I think, is the best way to say it. And
For sure.
and again, let's define the first time person and the rest, because that is really important. But either individual should prioritize themselves. Don't worry about your friends. Don't worry about, you're going to see them. Get your starting line or your finish line photo with everybody, but you should always be thinking to yourself, do I have something to hydrate with, right? Am I carrying something with me? And am I not forgetting to snack? So, that's an important step going into that race morning, right? Yeah, you got to stay relaxed. You have to stay fueled, and you got to stay hydrated to properly prepare yourself for the race.
Which is important for any marathon runner, period, right? Like, especially when you're doing those big races like Boston. I did Berlin last year. You get caught up in all that. It's really important for you to do those things. Stay hydrated, stay fueled, try to focus on those things.
So Jeff, we landed, we got to the airport, we got to our hotel, we identified where we are, we've done some of the touristy stuff, and now let's just say it's race morning, right? We're at the hotel. What can runners expect race morning, in terms of leaving the hotel, getting to the buses, and getting to Athlete Village, or to the start of the race?
So, obviously the majority of the athletes go out on the buses, right? And Boston has done a wonderful job with their organizing of loading the buses and the way that and it's all up in Boston Common area, right, where the buses are lined up. But there's one thing I think it's very important to understand. Your drop-off bag is not next to the bus. Your drop-off bag is down the street. Depending on your number, it could be up to a half mile or so from where you're going to load that bus. Okay, so you got to give yourself, so you're getting up early, you're taking care of the stuff at the hotel, you're making sure you're getting something to eat. Now you're walking out of the hotel, you're like, okay, I got to take my bag that I have to drop off for when I finish the race. Give yourself a little bit extra time there. So you got to manage that time commitment there to ensure that you get your bag dropped off and you're not rushing around. There will be 30,000 people or so all trying to do the same thing. But it is important to understand that you're dropping that off in a different location. Now, that location isn't far, but it's at least enough to pull you away from the line that you're expecting to get into when you get on the bus. Once you drop off your gear, okay, you're going to make your way back up to the Boston Common area where the buses are loaded. And you're just going to, like I said, there's so many volunteers that are just going to start pushing you around and saying, look, you're in this line, you're in that line. We're going to line you up here. They're counting you off, and they're doing a wonderful job organizing really the chaos that's happening, right? Because, a lot of times with runners, we're type A, we're getting frazzled. We're like, I got to get on the bus. I got to get on the bus. But these people are very calm. They're very supportive. They're very understanding. They've been doing it for many years. You got to trust them. And I think that now you're finding yourself on the bus, right? And it's a good, 45-minute ride out, out to Hopkinton, and you're on a school bus. That's a standard way of getting there. And try not to get the seat that has the one seat that has the wheel well in it. There's going to be 4 of those. I would stay clear of them unless you're trapped and you have to go there. But find yourself a little comfortable spot on the bus and ride it out. You're going to meet some great people. I think this is all part of the experience. I think this is what takes me back there, because the people you met. I mean, Jake, you and I are friends because of Karen when we met in 2015. We are still wonderful friends. And literally, I sat beside her on the bus, and we just start chatting. After that, we became really good friends. We met up a few other times in Boston. We met in Chicago, I think, one year, or somewhere in another race. But again, we still stay in contact. That is what Boston is about. And I think that's what running as a whole is about, right? The friendships we develop and the experiences we have. So as much as you're maybe stressing, or as much as you may be have a little bit of anxiety, or one way to calm those nerves is just to start talking. Say hi to the person next to you. Be social. Don't just sit there and ride it out. If it makes you feel better, listen to music, and you have headphones, or you have a way to, if you have a phone and you put your headphones in, some people do that. That's another great way to relax yourself. But I personally believe that on that bus is an opportunity and an experience that, you shouldn't pass up, because you never know who you're going to meet. And I think it's pretty cool to experience that.
I think that's funny too. It's, really, as big as the running community is, it also makes you realize how close the running community is. And that our story is a perfect example of that. The fact, I didn't know Jeff, at all, but I was good friends and still am good friends with this girl named Karen up in New York, who's actually an Olympic trial athlete. She actually competed in the Olympic trials for the marathon. And when I told her that I'm moving to Jacksonville, she goes, "Oh yeah, I met this guy Jeff down there. He's a good guy. I met him on the bus at the Boston Marathon." And lo and behold, I was already talking to Jeff's wife, not even knowing that Jeff and Karen were friends, and just because she was trying to recruit me for the distance project at the time, when she found out that I was moving down there. So we were all connected and didn't even know it. It was kind of a fun story. But all started from the bus at Boston Marathon.
Yeah. So it's really good. But, getting in there, like I said, I mean, look, it is what it is. It's a one-way transportation. Like it's a school bus. So now you're getting to Athletes Village, right? They're gonna get off. But when you take a school bus out there, they're gonna tell you to get off, right? So now I've been fortunate for the last 4 years or 5 years. I actually organized with a fellow friend back in Jacksonville a bus a chartered bus that we pay for, and everybody pays their seat value to get this to get the bus. But and it has its own bathroom, but it does stay at the venue. It parks, and you actually can stay on until you're going down to your corral start. But the majority of people are going to take a regular bus, right? They're going to go out there. And I think, again, it's really important to experience it. It's a wonderful area. The volunteers out there are wonderful. Athletes Village is full of everything you need, whether that's hydration, there's food out there, there's music playing, there's commentating on the history of Boston, the course. They're going to talk about the elites. So there's a lot of cool things. But I would say if you're going out in that manner, take either take something you're going to throw away, whether that's a blanket, or make sure that you take extra clothing, because what it feels like in downtown Boston at the finish is not always what it feels like out in Hopkinton, 26 miles away. So I think it's important that if you don't have the luxury of either going to a place that you know you're going to be indoors out there, you got to prepare for whether again, what could potentially go wrong. It could rain. The ground could be mildewy because it's still morning time. Typically in Hopkinton, you're going to get more overcast than you are than downtown. So that puts a lot of mildew on the ground, and you're going to be sitting on the ground. So I would take a garbage bag, maybe something simple, so you can sit down on it and things like that. So that
how about Athlete Village could be soaked in mud because because it rained the night before and the morning of.
Yep. And so, and one thing that that I've done in the past, I've taken additional shoes. You take a throwaway pair of shoes. The great thing, and I love this about all marathons, right? The majors, and a lot of other ones outside the majors, but most of the majors, all that clothes gets donated to the less fortunate, right? So I always look at it like this: I'm not worried about. I want to look stylish. I'll put on some nice clothes, right? So unless I have to go into Goodwill and go grab something just because I forgot it. But when I'm preparing, I want to be comfortable going out there. I want to make sure I'm warm. I want to make sure that if it's raining, I got something to cover. And I do know when all that stuff gets thrown away, heading out to my starting corral, it's going somewhere good. So you're giving back. You're giving back to a community. You're giving back to someone that's less fortunate. And I think that should make you feel good. And so don't just think that stuff goes to waste, because it does not. They repurpose it, and it goes to good causes.
Carolyn, you getting hyped?
Yeah, I can't believe you forgot the most important part of race weekend is the carb load. Where is your favorite pre-race dinner? What kind of food? Give me all the details.
Okay. So North End, number one, that's where you got to go. Right? You got the cannolis. I don't personally eat the cannolis, but everybody eats cannolis, and they tell me how good they are. It would not be a good race morning for me. But the North End is where you're going to go. There's numerous amounts of Italian restaurants, right? But there's three that I frequent mostly, and there's one that I always go to now. Over the last 4 or 5 years, I've gone to. But I think that La Familia Giorgio's is one that's really good. And then you have the La Astoria, which is my favorite. That one, they're all authentic Italian. So no matter what one I throw at you here, you're not going to go wrong. Mostly all of them have handmade pastas. They all have their little twist depending on where their family resides in Italy. And so you can't go wrong. But the Terramina Ristorante is another really good one. So those three in that area, I have pretty much gone to. The wait staff, and I would say the wait staff in all the areas will do whatever they can to get you in. So even though you call and you might try to get a reservation and be like, we're full, I highly recommend just calling and saying, hey, look, I'm trying to do an open table request, or I'm trying to get in via your websites, and it's telling me that there's no reservations. From what I have learned, most of those restaurants will just block out all the times, and they want people to call. So you call the restaurant, you say, can you get me in? I'm going to have a party of 3, 4, 5, and give them a range of time. So that allows them a little flexibility to try to get you in. But hands down, when you're talking about food Saturday and Sunday going into the race, the North End you're not going to go wrong. Leading into those days, and I think in the afternoons, you need to we want to eat clean. We want to eat, we want to have some options with different types of proteins, different types of carbs, some fats. And I have found over the last few years, there's a place that's on 800 Boylston. It's right across from the Expo on the opposite side of Boylston Street. And it's called Cava, Cava. It's very similar. It's a kind of a Mediterranean cuisine, but it's a bowl-based, rice, cucumbers. You get a choice of a protein, similar to something where I would recommend when you're over by MIT and you're over the other side of Charles. Chipotle is a great place to go to because it's easy, it's clean, and it's really not that expensive, and you're in and out. So things like that, I think, are thinking about stuff like that and how you're going to prepare and how you're going to eat are important as well, just as much as your preparation for the race. Does that help you,
That's
Carolyn?
awesome.
I just sent you guys the North End food tour that I did. It was actually a few days after Boston, but it was epic. Like he's saying, Jeff has it right. The North End is the spot. Best. It was amazing food tour.
Yeah, my wife is Asian, so we went to Chinatown,
Yeah.
and we had some hot pots. We went to a nice hot pot place there, which was nice.
Yeah.
Clean food. No, that is good to know, and I think a lot of people need to hear that too, especially about because most of them are going to try to book through apps, right? Or rely on those apps, and you're right. They're probably mostly going to say sold out, no tables. So I think what you said is perfect. What's the worst they could say if you call them? No,
Yeah,
we
it's a
don't have
great
anything.
piece of advice
Okay.
for sure.
It's never failed for me. Like every time I've called, and you think I have everything lined up, because I've done it so long. Like Jenny was booking reservations for me. I'm like, oh, they're sold out. Just give them a call. And sure enough, like this year we went from a 4 top to a 6 top, and with 2 phone calls. And like I said, they realize the individual owners in these in these locations, these establishments, they realize what's going on. They've done it for many, many years, and they want to be part of your experience. And I have no doubt that they're there to if they can fit you in, they're going to fit you in. So,
Yep.
But
well, now, we got off the buses. We're at the start, and tell people about Athletes Village a little bit and what that's like.
So Athletes Village is pretty simple. It's broken down. There's tents everywhere, and you're inside of the school out there in Hopkinton, right? I think might be the high school or junior high, but lots of room all over the place, right? And it's easy to kind of get around, and it's very easy to understand based off the announcements that are going on and because of the volunteers where exactly to go, because you're actually from Athletes Village down to the start, depending on where your corral is or your wave start is. That plays a factor in the timing. But they, again, going back to, this organization is so well established that they have it down, and they make the right announcements, and they put the right signs up, and they have the right volunteers that know how to get people where they need to be. So listen. So pay attention to the audible notifications, which is through the PA system out there and the individuals talking. If your corral gets announced to start moving, you need to start moving, right? And then you just kind of follow along everybody. You're going to walk down a long hill that takes everybody down the same direction. At that moment, keep your clothes on. Like don't discard anything at that point. You're going to start taking stuff off and getting ready for the race when you get down to the waves. So the waves starts that are down there, and then the corrals that are lined up. And I think a couple things that surprise people is there's basically a T in a road when you get to the end of that street. And now what they have done is they have a whole parking lot of porta-johns. So, and there's also a collection point for all your clothes. So get down to that point, know that there's a place you can go to the bathroom one more time, because you're probably going to be nervous. You're going to have to go. Discard your clothes. And then at that point, you're going right or left. Wave 1, wave 2 is going to go to the right. I think 3, 4, 5, and everything's going to go off to the left there. It's going to come down the hill a little bit. But know that there is a location for you to do the last minute bathroom check, make sure that you're good, you're okay. Get rid of your clothes, hold on to some of those clothes, because in the corrals, you might be standing around for a little bit. I highly encourage that for people that are probably wave 3 and 4 and back, just to stay warm. People that are up in wave 1 and 2, carry your stuff up there, shed the majority of your stuff. And then depending on the day, obviously, and then from there, make sure that you're that you're inside your corral in a timely manner. Corrals fill up quickly. You are not going to squeeze into a corral that's different than what your bib says. They have the process. They're going to make you show your build. And if you're wave one, corral 2, and you try to go into corral 1 right behind the elites, they're going to push you back to 2. So make it simple on everybody. I think that's an important piece. Be respectful of where you line up, and get into the corral. So now we're sitting in the corral, and at that point, it's a few minute waiting game depending on where you are.
Awesome. Have you ever tried to do that, Jeff? Have you ever tried to? Well, you probably never had to. You've probably been up there in one of those early corrals.
Funny story. Funny thing you said that. So no, I've been fortunate. I've always been wave 1, corral 1. I've always had a good position there. I don't think I paid attention this year to those emails that when you send it in a different time, and I gave my Boston time last year, and I'm not sure if I'm starting in corral 2 this year, which really kind of like, I was in my mind like, oh my God, I'm starting in corral 2. What do you mean I'm not starting in corral 1? Like, not that my time was horrible, but I think my numbering might be aligned with corral 2. And so it was a big joke with 2 of my buddies that are masters runners that I ran with this weekend, and we were they were joking on me that if I had to start behind them, I was going to have to catch up. But again, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Like, Boston, had a process for me to submit my Chicago time, which was 10 minutes faster than my last year's Boston time, or 7 minutes faster, whatever it was, which would have definitely secured me probably up there. But I'm still not even aware. I might be in that corral, but it's funny that you mentioned that, and I actually just experienced it, so I just kind of laugh about it. It's all good. I will start in corral 2 if it says corral 2.
Okay.
Right.
Well, now
that line they hide. The line that they put up where the person's holding it. I will be right at that line. Like, I'm going to stay
holding that guy's hand. Hey, buddy, let me hold this.
Yeah.
Well, now the fun part, right?
Yep.
The gun goes off and
race,
and you get to experience the course. And I think, well, I'll let you do the talking, but let's talk about the course.
Okay.
Not the course itself, not necessarily the atmosphere around it, but the course itself. Let's start with that.
Okay. So I've run this course multiple ways, and I think I would like to believe that there's some areas of concern. Everybody is like, when you look at the profile, there's a 14, it looks at a profile about 14 and a half miles, 15 miles of downhill, right? With a couple bumps throughout there. But I think there's some things to really think about when you break this course down. And I guess the best way for me to explain this is I'll speak to how I break it down, because I've tried every other way. And I really believe that this is probably one of the better ways I would recommend. If anybody ever asked my advice, this is how I believe running Boston can be very successful. Because I do believe Boston can be one of your better run races. Could be a PR if you run it correctly and you don't get caught up with everybody else around you. So the first 4 miles, it's downhill. You're also dealing with the energy of everybody's wave start. And the majority of people, because of that sharp first mile, it's a very good, very sharp drop, will run faster than their planned pace per mile. This is very important. I believe that you need to be slower, about 10 seconds slower that first mile, because and use that as your gauge to work into miles 2, 3, and 4, because 4 is the first time that you're going to hit that little bump. There's this little, just weird little uptick. It's not that much, but it's enough for you to go, oh wow, there's a hill right there. Okay, and then you start coming back down. So why I say to start 10 seconds slower. And that's okay if you go through the first 5K and you're 30 seconds off pace. Like, at the end of the day, that 30 seconds is nothing compared to getting to Newton Hills. And we'll talk about this, but getting into Newton Hills and being a minute off the first hill because you're tired. So the first part of that race, and we'll call it the first 10K, okay, really, because you do not want to be ahead of your goal time going through that first 10K. And if you are, just like I've talked about this in the past with other people, I always say to pull back. So now you're kind of like regaining some, just some better breathing. Don't keep pushing the pace just because you time checked yourself at that 10K mark. And I think most of the people that have experience with that course, if you go through faster through that first 10K, they would recalibrate themselves and pull themselves back and like slow down a little bit over the next few miles as they prepare to get through the half marathon. So also now let's get past the 10K mark and let's move ourselves from the 10K mark, up through the half marathon. There's a key area in there that I think that it hits people when you talk about, at this point, you're probably getting on pace. So, let's just use 7-minute pace as an example, right? Like if you're starting out the first 10K or so and you're running 7:10s, even 7:15s, the first few miles, don't freak out. Just hold your pace, recognize where you are, get yourself comfortable. Now you're making yourself into finally the 10K where things are leveling out through the 10K in like nine and a half or so. But when you hit that 9.5 mile mark or so, I think it's like right around 9. There's about a 2.5 mile stretch that it's a constant climb. You don't really notice it, but it's enough. It's enough that if you're pushing the pace, you're going to get more exhausted. You're going to use more energy. So 9 to about 11.5. Realize that you may not realize you're going up a hill or on an incline, but you are. So if your pace, again, falls back a little bit, again, don't freak out. You're still not even at the halfway point. And really where we want our strength is us pushing ourselves through the halfway marathon, going through 13, because right after 13, we're going to it's going to be 12.5, I think is where Wellesley is, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, from 12 through 13, you're so disassociated from running because of the noise from all the women, right? And it's amazing. Like I've had times I've run it where I'm high-five and hugging people, kissing girls, like, enjoying the moment, to other times where I'm just, I'm in my focus and I hear it. I just keep running. I'm paying attention to what's ahead of me. I'm monitoring myself and how I feel. So whatever avenue you choose, go with it. But it is that period, that 1 mile, you're going to be just overwhelmed with the amount of noise and the cheering that goes on in that area. So that's a wonderful pick me up. It's a great time to have some motivation and some energy. And so I say take it in, but again, maintain your focus. Understand that you're about ready to hit the halfway mark. And I think from the halfway mark until 15.5, it's difficult because again, you're gonna go from this like high energy tempo, you're motivated again to one of these kind of little bit of inclines, and then you're gonna hit, I think it's right at 14.5, 15. It's a screaming downhill, and it takes you right down into Lower Newton Hills. There's an area right there that mile and a half stretch where you can pick up, 10 seconds or so without utilizing energy because you're going downhill. You lean forward, you allow momentum to bring you down the hill. You're relaxing your shoulders more. You're preparing yourself for what's up ahead. And that's that stretch from, 16, through 21, really, because you got to get up and over heartbreak. But through 21, that's where the focus comes. So I think now as we're getting through and we're kind of, we're all feeling good. You kind of gained your time back. You're pretty much on schedule. the way I view this is now I'm like, okay, it's time to go to work. Like now it's time to really focus. Now all these one-liners I've been thinking about, all the motivation, the people that motivate me, and knowing the distances of the hills, and I can talk to that a little bit. How long that little bit of suffering is going to actually happen. I think that's important, right? And I think there's 4 hills going through that period, right? Immediately the first hill is coming up out of 15. You come off that long downhill, you're going right into Lower Newton Hills, and it's going over the overpass. Now that particular incline it can be very windy because you get a crosswind coming off the highway down below because you kind of go up and over into 16 and 17 up ahead. So I think you hit 16 on the hill, if I'm not mistaken, and then kind of 17, you're well clear of it. But this is your work time. This is what it's all about, because this is really going to define, I think, the outcome is how fully engaged you can keep yourself and to focus on what's ahead, but also to stay confident and not get distracted because you lose a few seconds on a hill. Okay. So coming through 16 is the first hill. And then I think 16 through 18 is the other one where you go past the fire station, you drop down, and then it's an immediate right turn. It's a 90-degree turn. It's going to take you straight up a hill. And that one in itself it's challenging. So I think that being prepared for that second major hill is important, because that's, besides heartbreak in itself, because it's a double hill, that hill can take time away from you. But again, if you properly manage your time frames going into it, and you're focusing that this is my time to work, this is my time to focus, you're going to be successful. And don't get caught up on a few seconds here and there. Now we're past that second hill. We're now going into Newton proper, and we're going to get to heartbreak, right? And really, heartbreak is divided by 2 hills, right? You take the first one, and I think 19 or so, and that's going to climb a little bit, and you get up to the top, and you're almost like, oh my gosh, that wasn't bad. And then it flattens out just for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, here comes the second part, and that's where everyone's cheering you. You're getting up by Boston College there, and people are encouraging you to get to the top, and that's really where you're starting to make your way into mile 21. Is okay. The work is done. Now I have 5 miles. Right, I have 5 miles to finish this. I can do it. Keep the confidence high. You're gonna come to a long downhill, and again, going through 21. But before I get up to 21 through 26, I think it's important, and something that I've learned over the years, when you're running the hills and you get to the top, something that I do that I heard on a podcast one year, and that from a professional athlete, was when you get to the top, count out 10 quick steps. So as you're striding, right, and you get to the top, you got a lot of lactic acid, you're kind of sluggish a little bit, do 10 quick steps, count on one foot, 1, 2, 3, through 10, and then go forward. It helps you get back into your running form and get you back onto pace, because it relaxes you for a second, but then it starts moving you forward because you're picking your turn up over. So something that works for me. I've not only used it on trail running, I've used it on major marathons, I've used it in regular races if I go up a hill. So that's just a little bit of a tip for people, something to try. And then, so now we're getting down, we're out of Newton Hills, and we're going to start, getting down into 22. And there it is. You have 5 miles left, but I think there's 2 important pieces of those last 5 miles. Actually 3. First thing is you need to be aware that there's you're going to look straight ahead, and all you're going to see is this Sitco sign every once in a while. Well, that Sitco sign is 3 miles up the way. Okay. And it's daunting. It can, you can get anxiety. You start thinking like, oh my God, how am I going to keep going? You're hurting from the hills. There's all these things running through your head. 1 mile at a time. If you can't go 1 mile at a time, go a half mile at a time. Go to the next person. Whatever works for you at that moment to get you through that next mile is what the goal is. So don't get too caught up thinking too far down the road and thinking about the finish. Think about, again, you've done the majority of the work. Now it's time to kind of, okay, maintain and enjoy this finish, because there's people everywhere. People are yelling. Make sure you stay hydrated. You're grabbing fluids. Make sure you're still eating, because you're past the 20-mile mark. If you need an extra goo, don't be afraid to take it. And when you start working your way through 22, 23, 24 is a tricky mile. You're pretty much you're getting to the Sitco sign, but there's an overpass there, and it's a quarter mile up and a quarter mile down. So, but it's enough where you're towards the end of the race, you're a couple hours in, you're feeling the pounding in your legs, and now all of a sudden you got to bump up this little uptick of an overpass. So be prepared for that. Understand that that's going to be there. No, you should be thinking about it going into it. And again, even though it's a quarter mile to get up there, use that step over technique where you pick up your cadence a little bit, because now you're kind of on a down a down slope a little bit going down to the finish there, and you're gonna have to you're gonna pass 25. Now it's wide open coming in past the 25-mile marker. But what they have done over the last couple of years is you actually go to the left, and this is about 25 and a half. You're going to go down and underneath an overpass and come back out. So again, that's the second area where you can get really surprised if you don't know it's there. So they used to just take you up and around and they didn't drop you down. Now they drop you down under the overpass and bring you back up. So there's going to be a little bit of down slope, and then all of a sudden you got to climb yourself back up to where you make that right onto Hereford, right? So, and that's at a slant, right? That's at an upgrade. But there's so much energy and so many people that I don't think you really realize, actually you're running uphill at that point, because you're so excited and you're about ready to turn on you make your left turn on to Boylston. So, and that is just 3/4 of a mile, I think is important that coming through there that you're going to finish. So you're going to see the 26-mile marker not too far up, and then you're going to finish off when you hit that turn. So going into that finish, at that point, again, I'm going to, I do it to myself. I make it a point to look at people, to somehow make a gesture that I'm thankful for everybody out there, right? And everybody cheering. A lot of times they're going to call out your number, they're going to call out your name. You don't even know these random people. But I think it's important to give back a little bit too, and take in that enjoyment that straightaway has, in the excitement. Again, you go back to 2013, there was a lot of tragedy. And I think that it's important to recognize that there's a symbolic, is feeling maybe that a lot of people, that means a lot to somebody. And I think that, that's important, because again, going back to why you're out there, what was your goal? How did you want to finish when you wanted to cross the finish line? And so finding these little tidbits of things to give back, I personally, is what I do. Right. And I want to be conscious enough and in the mindset of thanking people and taking in that moment of one more time. I've finished the Boston Marathon. I have achieved another goal of mine. And now it's time to celebrate with friends, family, new friends, and stuff like that.
Right. I don't know about you guys. I feel like I just ran the Boston Marathon, just virtually. I just did a virtual Boston Marathon with Jeff here.
No, I'm just kind of taking in all the tips and thinking about the things that I did not do right whenever I ran. So
it took 15 years to figure that out, Chase.
Yeah. And I think that, I've done it once, so not nearly as much experience, but I can definitely speak to, a lot of the emotions early on. I think at the time when I came through the halfway point, I was like, it was a half marathon PR for me, because I was, like you kind of said, coming through the 10K, if you're a little bit ahead, you got to pull back on the reins. I didn't really do that. I was feeling good, and I was probably in the best shape of my life at the time too. But I was like, oh, I'm feeling good. This is fine. This is a breeze. But those hills definitely got me at the end, and the college girls, oh my gosh. So the other mistake that I made, and one of the tips that I always like to tell people about Boston, and probably the race that taught me to not depend so much on headphones. I'd gotten to that, like a lot of other people right now. A lot of people listen to music, and it's great, it's fun, but especially those races like Boston, man. Like you just got to unplug and let the fans drive you, because I was listening to music. I was at Boston, but when I went through that tunnel, I couldn't hear my music. It was so loud and so crazy. I couldn't believe it. I was blown away.
Yeah, it's a great experience, for sure, no doubt.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm jealous that you get to do it again this year, Jeff. We have a big group from here in Florida coming up
Yeah.
there for it, but I'm based on your pattern, I'm pretty confident you'll be there in 2025. So
Fingers crossed. Healthy, maintaining my health and wellness, I think, is most important. And, that's
Yeah.
our goals, right?
Jeff was talking about how he doesn't eat the cannolis. So Jeff, he's dairy free,
That's
right?
pretty much it.
You're lactose intolerant.
Yep.
And are you gluten free too?
No.
Okay. All
I
right.
eat,
So yeah,
I pretty much eat everything. I just, I choose to stay away from dairy. It just doesn't sit well with me most of the time. So, yeah, I think, and I think that's an important piece of, if again, it all goes back to our preparation, right? Like in thinking about what works and what doesn't work. Don't ruin your race because you try something new. Everybody knows it, but we all do it. And I've been there, but I think with the amount of information that we have nowadays, there's ways you can definitely set yourself up, and I think, talking about setting yourself up, one thing I would like to circle back on, if we have a moment here, is the hills themselves. And I talked about this when I said knowing the distances of those hills. Now, don't quote me on this. I didn't take a tape measure. I didn't roll this out, but I did a pretty good analysis of it. But this is me. This is an estimate. But if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't looked at my paperwork in a couple years, I used to be so meticulous. I used to write out exactly what my pace is going to be for every mile, how I was going to run it. That's kind of how I know the intricacies of the terrain, because I used to meticulously look at it and know like how I should be running at that moment. I've tried to stay away from that a little bit more so in the near future, more recently. But I think the first hill is a quarter mile. The second one is 3/4 of a mile, or somewhere thereabouts, 3.5. I take Heartbreak as a full mile. Like I just think of it in my mind like it's a full mile, because it's a demanding double hill course, or double hill, that you don't really realize until you're on it. If you run the race really within your limits, I think you run over Heartbreak, and you say to yourself, wow, like that wasn't too bad. But I think people do get caught up, and a majority of runners, they're pushing the pace, they're in Boston, there's all this excitement, they beat themselves up just a little bit early on, and then they get to that last hill. That's where it really comes in. But I think knowing those distances, you can say to yourself, I'm only going to suffer for this small period of time. I've done countless quarters, I've done countless half miles, I've done countless mile intervals. Like, just keep turning over. And I think that's another, and I would say that for that point in 24, right, where we're going into 25, when you go over the overpass, and that other little one when you go down, once you pass 25-mile marker and you drop down and underneath. Knowing that they're there will calm your nerves, and they'll also allow you to respond better physically. So I just think that's important for the viewers to understand. It's something to think about.
that's great advice. I don't know, Carolyn, you being the one that hasn't run Boston yet, is there anything that stands out as a question that you have for Jeff, before we head out here, that that you're hoping to retain?
Yes. So I know you're considered a legacy now. Do you still try to get under that Boston qualifying standard, or are you just like, you know what, I'm just gonna have fun, I'm just gonna run a pace that I can sustain? Like what's your mindset going into these Bostons now?
Well, yeah, I'm considered as a streaker. So what for the streakers that are remaining, which I don't know what that number is. It's only I think, yeah, I don't even want to say it. I think it was 100 and some at this point. But anyways, we get the email 1 week before, 2 weeks before, that allows us to register. Now, our requirement is to run a qualified race, right? So we do have to run a marathon and we do have to qualify underneath our time, but we automatically get in. There's no whatever that delta comes out to at the end. Whenever everyone else registers, we don't worry about that. So we automatically get in, but we still got to accomplish the feat of qualifying for the thing. So to answer your question, yes, I do qualify, right? But I also qualify as fast as I can qualify, right? So I want my fastest time. I don't believe my fastest days are behind me. I believe that I still have the opportunity to potentially run a PR. Some people call it your master's PR. I don't look at things like that. I look at things just like as a whole. And, and so I think that like I will continue to push myself as long as my body allows me to push myself. And I think I think there's a lot of good there from that when we talk about how running plays into our life, right? So this is just one thing. It doesn't it defines us to a point, but it doesn't really define us, right? But it gives us, I believe it gives us so much more. So it allows us an opportunity to better ourselves. Wherever that goes, it's free range, right? Like it could go any direction, whether that's through work or career or relationships. You can find strength in what we do. And I think when you talk about qualifying and like how like what your approach is, I would say that my approach is to run as fast as I can for as long as I can. And not limit myself by saying, well, I'm 49 years old this year. Like, am I still able to hold a certain pace? I don't look at it that way.
That 1% better each day, right? I think we just heard
Yeah.
that. We just heard that recently, didn't we?
Yep. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Jeff, we're coming up close to time here, but where can our viewers, our listeners, find you on social media if they wanted to follow you and follow your Boston Marathon journey? Is there a spot that they can go to?
Yeah. So obviously I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I think I'm Jeff Tomaszewski on Facebook. Pretty simple. And then my Instagram, this is how good I am at this stuff. My Instagram, is it Run for Life?
It is Run for Life, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, I think I changed it finally. Run. I think it used to be. I don't think it is. That's really funny, isn't it? Like I really don't like. You'd think I would know this stuff.
I'm
Like,
never on
but
Instagram anymore.
I'm pretty. JT Runner 75.
JT_runner
But I think if you
75.
search Jeff Tomaszewski, it comes up to JT_runner 75. But yeah, so then, and I also think for anybody, and I think for all the viewers, obviously the app is the number one go-to to track your friends, your family, random strangers, elites. They're always fun to watch how fast they are and how encouraging it is to see. But the app itself does allow you download it off of the app store, and you can populate it with as many runners as you choose. You can search by state, you can search by number, you can search by last name. So there's multiple ways for you to find people to do that. So as far as the Boston Marathon is concerned, that is probably your number one resource to track people to do things.
You'll have to let us know what your number is. A lot of people probably are going to have difficulty spelling your name. So that is TOMASZEWSKI. For the longest time, I just called him Jeff Allen because that
was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's what my old, I had that as, that was a military thing that they came out with where they didn't want our social media names. The job I had at the time, we weren't really supposed to have our full name. So I used my middle name when I did that. And then everybody, it's funny. Yeah, I remember you calling me Jeff Allen, and I had a lot of people do that, to the point where when my wife and I just got married a few years ago, her best friends, really, I never met them, and they sent us a plaque that says the Allens. So because they were like, oh,
Awesome.
we'll just look on Facebook, and my name was Jeff Allen, so they were like, oh, I guess he's the Allen. So we have it now. We keep it out. We always laugh when we look at it.
Oh man. Well, guys, Carolyn, you wanna say where viewers and listeners can find us here at RunTok?
Yes, you can follow us on Instagram at RunTok Live. You can join our Facebook group at RunTok Live. You can email us at runtalklive@gmail.com. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. And then you can find me on Instagram at Carolyn M. Levenway and TikTok at Carolyn McDuff.
Still getting used to that last name. Hers is almost as hard.
I haven't changed it. So.
Awesome. And Chase?
Yeah, I am Chase Adams, aka Chaser No Pacer, on wherever. Just look up Chaser No Pacer, and you'll probably find me. Jeff, really appreciate the advice today, and thank you for your service too. Really appreciate that as well.
Yeah, definitely want to highlight that. Thank you for your service. We do got Memorial Day coming up here too, just around the corner. But thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your tips. And for the listeners, you can also find me at The Cultural Runner on all social media platforms. But definitely follow Jeff and his Boston journey that is ever growing, it seems like. So
Yeah.
never ending, ever growing. So
well, thank you for everything. This has been an opportunity that I really appreciate, and I'm honored to be able to sit here and talk with the three of you. Chase, it's really nice meeting you. Look to stay in touch. Carolyn, same thing. Jake, we'll keep at it too as well. But I really do appreciate this opportunity, and I wish everybody that is listening to this, whether you're running the race this year or you have aspirations to run, never stop trying, and go out there and have a wonderful time.
On that
There's
note,
your sign off, Jake.
Yeah, on that note, this has been another episode of RunTok Live, and we will be seeing you guys soon. Peace out.
Deuces.